Great song there, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Midday Music and More show here on 107.9 The Berg. I'm Marcus Pasceri, and we are joined here by local author John Schlarbaum to chat a little bit about his newest release, Music Virgin No More. John, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fantastic. Amherstburg is always a fun place to be, and I've been here for quite a while now. So
you come from up north, right? A little tiny bit up north.
I grew up in West Lorne, which is like 90 miles down the 401, halfway between Chatham and London. So when I actually moved to Amherstburg in I think 2007, I was sort of living a couple blocks away from the main Four Corners, and I'm like, this really feels sort of like a little town, because I was able to walk 2 blocks to this place and 2 blocks to the rivers. So I mean, I've had a great love affair with Amherstburg.
It's a lovely small town, that's for sure. So, John, tell us a little bit about this new book of yours you got in the works, done.
It's done, yes. It's really a companion piece to a new podcast that I'm doing with my friend Jason Kavanaugh, who's from Essex. He's out in Alberta now. But the new book is called Music Virgin No More, and sort of the subtitle is Confessions of a Young Record Collector, 1979 to 1982. So what it really chronicles is when I was, 1979, 1980, I'm like 13, 14 years old, living in a small town. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, Spotify or YouTube,
for sure.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
And I always really enjoyed following records up charts, be it Billboard or RPM Magazine, which was the Canadian version of Billboard, songs going up and down. And I started collecting, my own albums and 45 records. And at one point in time, at the end of 1979, I decided, hey, maybe I have enough records and albums. I could make my own, top 35 list, and I ranked them all, and I'm like, well, that's kind of cool.
Absolutely it is, yeah. And I wanted to actually start off by saying that is a huge part of the book is that you are making your own charts. It follows what makes pop music, and I think that is a incredible hobby to have, is making your own charts. I'm a critic myself, so. Right,
yeah, it was just sort of like a cool thing to do. So it wasn't until August 1980 that I actually sat down and I started creating my own weekly charts. It started off with the top 15 singles and my top 15 groups. And there was, things that there were rules.
You had to own them.
I had to physically own a copy of this 45. So even though I may have had the album, Duke by Genesis, that contains the single Misunderstanding, which I loved at the start of the year, I couldn't put it on my chart because I didn't have the 45.
That's a tough hobby for a 15-year-old to sustain.
Even a 13-year-old with no car.
Yeah, that's insane. Honestly, that's.
and the same thing with the groups. My group chart. The first groups that I had were number 1, Paul McCartney and Wings, Queen, Bob Seger, Billy Joel, Pete Townsend, Tom Petty, Jay Giles, Genesis, Pat Benatar, and the Eagles. And the only way that they could be on my charts is I had to have at least one of their albums to chart. So you end up missing a lot of big groups at the end of the 70s and early 80s, are like Kiss and the Doobie Brothers and the Babies and Toto. I may have had I didn't have any of their albums, so they couldn't be on my precious charts.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about your, even before that, the formative years. You said that bands like Casey and the Sunshine Band, Paul McCartney and Wings with Silly Love Songs, I forget the other one there, but it was all disco.
Right.
That kind of it started you off on this musical journey, is that you started to really listen to music when those songs came on the radio. So is disco something that kind of woke you up, like in the late 70s?
I think disco was just part of that genre. Like all the songs that are 1976, 77, and they were played on my little AM transistor radio. All the time. But it was really back in like I said, 1976, where I started, if I saw a chart, I would know that album, and I'm like, oh, I should probably get that. Or maybe my sister or brother they had one of the albums that I would just listen to it because, you're in such, you had two bedrooms. Me and my brother shared a bedroom until I was 14, and my sister had her own room. But, I think we all shared one record player upstairs, right?
That sounds about right.
And then you had the big console record player downstairs, which is, the size of a wooden, couch type of thing that every once in a while you'd be able to take off, my mom's Jim Neighbor records or, my dad's, religious records. He was a Baptist minister. And wow. I would put on, Chicago's, one of Chicago's albums that I got from the Columbia Record House.
Yeah. Now that would be around the If You Leave Me Now days, wouldn't it? Yeah. So I wanted to kind of ask you, how much thought went into these charts? Like, I know it must be difficult to come to a conclusive consensus on an actual, set ranking. So how much thought did you put into these charts?
Well, again, I did. These charts run from August 1980, when I'm 14 and a half years old, up until August 1982, 1 week before I was about to enter high school.
Wow.
And yes, crazy. I was a minor niner at the time, right?
Yeah.
But during those 2 years, I did. There was 106 weekly charts, and then at the end of every year, I would also do, maybe a top 30 or a top 40. 1 year was a top 50, singles of the entire year. And I took this very seriously. Okay, it was like a little side hobby. And the crazy thing is, these were for, my eyes only. I didn't share them with my friends. I didn't share them with my brother or sister. I had, this little portable typewriter that my dad had.
And there's a picture in the book of that typewriter, that very typewriter.
There is. Yeah. And my co-host, Jason of the podcast, he actually found one that's almost identical, and he sent it to me from Alberta. So I still have that. So the charts themselves, it was a week of, when you're 13, 14, 15, you have lots of time to listen to music. You don't have any other obligations, and you don't have YouTube. You don't have, Spotify. You don't have Crave or Prime or anything like that. So a lot of your time when you're young, back in the early 1980s, when you didn't have all these other social media distractions, Facebook and that, you would just listen to an album. You would put on side A, listen all the way through, and 20 minutes later, get up, flip it over, play side B, and then if you really liked it, you'd do it again. If the album had lyrics in it, you could spend a whole day with, that one album. So you had lots of time to listen to music, and that helped with the charts as well. I like the song a little more than I liked this one last week, so let's move it up a couple of spots.
For sure, absolutely. And you know what? I also have tons of time to listen to music, but I just wanted to kind of get an idea. Those opening pages, you do mention you literally have a list of things you weren't, that weren't regularly available to you. No internet, no MP3s, no iTunes. But I really kind of just want to get an idea, and I want the audience to know, what was that feeling like to happen upon a record that you really resonated with from a random artist that you've never heard of before? Just to kind of just find gold in a record store.
A lot of times you would end up liking the single, because back then, singles were sort of king, and that was your gateway into buying the album. So if you really like this one single, you're like, hey, I like the single, I'm going to go up and buy the album. But a lot of times you would get that album, and it would be from an artist that, has been around all right for 5 or 6 years, but I didn't know that. I didn't have Rolling Stone magazine. I didn't have Wikipedia. I didn't have any social media. So I would get the album wow, I really like this guy. And then you go back to the record store the next week or a couple weeks later, and you start flipping through the bins, and you realize, he had 3 other albums before that. So you would end up buying these other albums, and now you are a huge fan of this group. But it all started with one song that you heard on the radio for 3.5 minutes that got you to the store for the 45, and then got you back for the album that had that 45 on it. And then after that, next time you go into a used record store or new records, you would buy their back catalog, and that's always very exciting to find out that these guys, they've been around for a while. But when you're, I say in the book, when you're 13, you're not analyzing records, you're just enjoying records. So,
For sure.
the stuff that I bought was stuff that I like. When people read this book and see there's actual charts in the book, and you will see on a week-to-week basis, songs going up and down, that I didn't put those in there for a debate. But people go, oh, I used to love that song.
For sure.
But I think a lot of people look at these charts and go, I forgot all about that song. Oh my goodness. And now they can go to Spotify or something immediately and listen to that song over and put onto a playlist or something, which is sort of a good thing with this book. I'm banding together, the old school where there was nothing, to now it's at your fingertips.
For sure. And that's the exact reason why I asked, is because that feeling is very easy to get these days, but back then it just must have been so special, and I'm envious for that very reason. And we have the very charts right here in front of us, not just pictures, like the actual physical copies. But we are going to go to a quick commercial break. We're with John Schlarbaum here. We'll be back in just a minute, so stay tuned, Amherstburg, and we will be around. It's the Midday Music and More Show with your pal Marcus Pasceri. We're coming to you live from Sandwich Street here at our studio at CKBG. I am joined by John Schlarbaum, author of his newest book, Music Virgin No More. John, we are having a great time here. I got one question for you to start us off with the second half. When did your record collection really start looking like, well, a record collection?
I think probably just like in 1979. I'm 13. I was getting a lot of records through the Columbia House Record Company, where you could get 13 albums for a penny. Everybody remembers this company. And if you didn't send back the featured artist card of that record would just show up. It was like negative billing back then. But you were like in 1979, before I started my weekly charts, I did the first, I think it was like the top 35 singles of 1979. So I had a lot of singles, and I have 35 of them.
So the Mac My Sharona must be on there, right?
That was literally number one.
The last of the 70s, isn't it? The last number one hit of the 70s, I'm pretty sure.
No, the last number hit of the 70s would be Rupert Holmes' Escape, the Pina Colada song.
Okay. I'm thinking it was the best song of 79.
Yes.
Right.
It was the number one song in the United States. I think it was number maybe 3 in Canada.
Yeah, you know your stuff. I didn't even expect to be quizzing you on that, but that's amazing.
I've been doing a lot of research for the podcast and just from memory. I mean, this is stuff that you remember, as a kid growing up. Like I used to probably before this, when I was like 8 through 11, I probably could have, gave you all the statistics of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time when I was completely into hockey, and it was Darryl Sittler and Lanny McDonald and Boris Salming.
Back when the Maple Leafs had
when they were almost
hope.
winning ways.
Yeah. If only.
So I mean, a lot of that stuff is just sort of, in my head as low music, music trivia, which I always think is cool. And even today, 45 years later, I mean, I love looking at, music trivia books or reference books. And really, that's what this book is. It's not just my memoir of growing up and becoming a record collector. It's also, we do a lot of, I highlight in the podcast and the book, we highlight different records each week and different groups, and maybe why they became huge in a couple of years, the groups did, or maybe they just had a one-hit wonder, but they're still out there. They might be playing this weekend somewhere, and thousands of people will show up, and they had one hit in 1982, and they've lived off that. Great,
exactly. A lot of the time, that's all you need.
Good for them.
Yeah, it's like the Christmas music thing. Like you just need to get that one hit out there, and boom, and you're good. Passive income. Now, looking back on it all the music you've listened to and collected, and it's perfect for the podcast too. Is there one group that stands above the rest for you?
Well, I think the biggest thing, we were talking earlier about finding new music at the time, and I have it's not a whole chapter, but quite a bit in the book and the podcast that deals with Bruce Springsteen. where I loved the song Hungry Heart when it came out. I would go to the pool hall and put on Hungry Heart and Just Like Starting Over by John Lennon. They came out kind of about the same time, and those two songs,
fantasy.
And those are the two songs I put in for my quarter just over and over again.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know Bruce Springsteen, but then the album The River comes out. It hits #1 after 2 weeks in the States. I'm like, I need to know about this guy. So
the boss.
He's the boss.
He's the boss.
So my dad, he was my courier of choice because he would go visit people in the hospitals in London or Chatham or St. Thomas. And on one day, like I think on a Thursday, he brought home The River for me. And I listened to, the first 20 songs. And then, the following day he brings home, I say, oh, you're going to Chatham. Can you pick up this Born to Run album, supposed to be pretty good by the same guy, Bruce, right? So my dad brought home that album the next day, and as soon as I started listening to Born to Run, the needle went down. I listened to that. It's like 38 minutes long, and at the end of that, I was done. Like, I'd never heard an album like that before, and The River, even though it's good, I didn't like it as much because it wasn't as classic as this Born to Run. And then after that, you find out, he has other albums. And since that time, I followed his career and everything. But he really is one of those people that I say in the book, on that random Thursday morning when my dad went to get The River, I really didn't know who Bruce Springsteen was, aside from he's got this cool hit called, Hungry Heart that I like. Yeah. And he becomes like, he had this, and then he had this, and he became, a lifelong, favorite just because of that one morning. And if I never got either one of those albums, like, who knows what direction I could have got, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's an invaluable experience right there. And you were mentioning you have a lot of firsts that are mentioned throughout the book as well. So, maybe give a little highlight on some major first experiences that you kind of detail.
Yep, and again, this is part of the reason I want to publish the book, because these are my first, but as soon as you, the reader, reads it, go, my first single was this, and my first was this and this. So I'm trying to, reignite memories, fond, good memories of your own record collecting or your own music past. So, like, just a couple of my first were, my first 8-track / 2 LP / live album, because it was all one thing, was Peter Frampton's Comes Alive.
Amazing.
The classic album. So it's 1976. The album comes out in January, and by that summer, Peter Frampton was the biggest thing on the planet Earth. And
fresh out of Humble Pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm 10 years old. I'm in grade 10 years old.
Grade 7,
5, 6 or something.
I think
must have been grade 6.
5 or 6.
I literally right now remember where my locker was when I was talking to somebody about this album.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But again, I mean, that album, I got my paper route money. I was with the London. I did courier for the London Free Press in West Lorne for 8 years, from 8 until 16. That's where all my record money came from.
Great. Well, thank God for that. Yeah. And
but I got this sight unseen, Frampton Comes Alive, the 8-track, because I think my brother had just bought an all-in-one stereo that had an 8-track player. And I don't know who Peter Frampton is. And I put this thing in, and it goes on for 76 minutes from all of his, greatest hits from his solo stuff. And now I'm a lifelong fan. And I remember it costing me $10 in 1976 for this double 8-track that I bought at a Canadian Tire store.
That's crazy. Canadian Tire, no less, eh?
Right.
What in the world?
That's the thing. Like in West Lorne, we didn't have a record store, so everything was in London, Chatham, St. Thomas type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know in Amherstburg. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys had a record store here.
Don't ask me.
I'm looking at you and you're like,
I have no idea.
It's before my time down here. So.
My family is from South Windsor, so we didn't I couldn't even ask my parents that. So
somebody could probably comment on if we had a record store in Amherstburg where you could have bought Peter Frampton or U2's Joshua Tree later on or something.
So where can the people find this great book?
You can get the book at the River Bookshop and also at Vintage and Vinyl, the record store on Murray Street.
Oh, I love that place.
Great little store.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can pick up a lot of, the albums and, artists that they talk about.
Double-edged sword.
Yep. And you can also get it on, through Prime.
And every 2 weeks?
Or through Amherstburg. Through Amherstburg. Through
Amazon Prime.
Through Amazon.
There we go.
You can order a book and it'll be, sent to you like in 2 days.
Awesome. And the podcast every 2 weeks?
Podcast every 2 weeks and the
Which day?
On Thursdays.
Thursdays.
And it is called Music Virgins with an S. More, because I debate the 80s with my co-host Jason, who is 20 years younger than me. He's actually a sound engineer and has worked in theaters in Toronto and everything. He's out in Alberta now. But I would always say that the 80s music was really good, and he'd go, no, it was like synthesizers and drum machines, and I didn't like it. I'm like, no, you have to listen to this group. So that's what the podcast is. We were going through these charts that I made when I was 13, 1980 to 1982, and then he talks about it from a sound engineer standpoint, from music, but also if he thinks it was good music at the time. And we have like one great segment on pretty much every show where Jason goes, John, what were you thinking?
That's classic, eh? I love that.
So it's just, again, it's a fun podcast. The book is like a companion piece to it. You can, listen to one and then pick up the book. And the other great thing about the book is because the charts are all, they're there, you can make your own great, 80s 80s playlist on Spotify for the weekend.
Heck yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for joining us here in the studio this afternoon.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Good luck with the book. Good luck with the podcast. You bet I'll be reading more for this week. I mean, I was, like I told you earlier, I was up till 4 a.m. reading last night.
I look forward to your review.
Thank you, sir. And I technically actually have my own variety of charts on Spotify, like you said, playlists, and that I'm constantly keeping up to date. So you have inspired me to make even more. So
perfect.
Thank you so much for a little hint of inspo on that one. John Schlarbaum, ladies and gentlemen, this is 107.9 The Berg. I will be back around with some more great hits any moment now.